Hello, 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 and welcome to the Drag Race RHAPup here on reality TV RHAPups.
I can't.
Today we'll be putting you to sleep with our ASMR love.
What a long way to go for a gag. Look, we're talking about ASMR Lover and two other songs as well. Welcome to the Drag Race recap on reality TV RHAPups. I'm your host, Liana Boraas. We're going to talk about episode 5 of RuPaul's Drag Race season 16. And with me, you already heard her ASMR voice. It's Beth Dixon.
It's Be Easy.
Oh my God. The contrast. Sorry for your eardrums, listener.
Yeah, sorry. I if you turned it up for Liana's voice, I'm real sorry.
Yeah,
I'm doing well. This was such a good episode. I can't wait to talk about it with you.
Yes. We are going to talk about everything from the Black Butter Remix challenge and everything else from this episode. Before we get started, please leave your star ratings and reviews for us on iTunes. That's very helpful. And especially if you enjoyed Dear, who was absolutely wonderful to talk with last week about everything, just having that outside and in-depth knowledge about the subject, I think makes me realize how little I know.
Oh, yeah.
Continue to talk about it. So I have my microphone. Let's keep going. Also, to those of you who reached out about other guests, we love that. And we do have some of those people, Jake, lined up and potentially coming on at some point during the season. We're organizing that now. So don't worry about it. All right. Where do we start, Beth?
First of all, we come off of a very, very, very emotional elimination of last week's with Mirage, and clearly the girls are feeling it this week. They walk into the workroom, they're all crying except for Plain, who was emotional on the stage. I will give her that. She was crying on the stage. And it's, we start going right into congratulating Plasma, and Q has some feelings, Liana.
Yeah, Q is definitely feeling upset, and the other queens are not having it at all.
No.
Again, this isn't to invalidate Q's feelings, because I understand where she's coming from of being so close and not being able to take the win.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you're also talking to people who were in the bottom, who were just safe. And you kind of have to recognize your audience about who you're talking to, because clearly they're going to perceive Q's emotions very differently. And I think that this is where you see Plain Jane come at her being like, Defa?
Listen, I was also in the top and didn't win, but I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. I'm not going to lie. I live. But I also I have also always maintained that if you are a person who is calling out, it's the same thing with that's a lot of emotion for Safe from All Stars 3. That's
yes.
I will always be on board with the people who call out that, because I have been that person my entire life who feels like I've gotten so close so many times and haven't gotten it. But there have also been a shit ton of times where I have gotten it, Q, you're on Drag Race and you're killing it, So there is a part of me that understands, but it's also, it's a stressful competition. They're emotional. My favorite part, though, is looking at Tsunami's face throughout all of that, because I'm also sitting back and being like, I think Tsunami had probably one of the best looks last week and has been killing it and has not necessarily gotten any critiques yet because she keeps being safe, when arguably she could have been in the top a lot more. So I'm just sitting back, and you can tell Tsunami's like, this bitch, listen, at least you're getting critiques and you're getting praise, because I'm putting out some good damn drag and I'm not even getting critiques at this point.
At least Tsunami's going to get some feedback this week for the performance and for the runway. But it was a lot of emotion, I think, from the end of last week's episode into this week's episode, and then also with Q. And I know Q and Plain have the ability to sort of hash things out, although then Q brings in Amanda, and then you have all of this drama in the workroom, which I was really proud of Amanda for just being like, why did you bring me into this? Like, I don't know why you hate me so much because I did nothing to you, which Plain tries to then position is like, it's actually, I have nothing to do with Amanda. It's just the art that Amanda creates. However, the way that Plain delivers it is very much like, I hate you, Amanda. So.
Listen, yeah, that's the thing. She's now said this like multiple times where she's like, I don't dislike Amanda as a person. I just dislike her as an artist, which I'm also like, that's a slap in the face still. But regardless, I mean, there is a difference between speaking your truth and knowing when your truth is not necessary. And like, that's the thing, right? Like, we all have thoughts about people, but we don't all vocalize them. And it doesn't, quote unquote, make you real if you just vocalize everything that comes into your head. It just makes you a bitch. So I do think there are times where I have really been living for Plain Jane. Case in point with what how she kind of came back at Q. I did think that was pointed and a little unnecessary, but I'm also watching Drag Race and Drag Queens, and I was also kind of living for it.
Yeah.
This was a situation where I was like, there was absolutely no need for her to bring Amanda into it. It's not like she had a clever read or anything like that. It purely was just like, how can I put down Amanda a little bit more? And I don't know. I think we got to call that out as we see it with Plain, because there are definitely been queens of color who have done not nearly as egregious things as she's done and gotten way, way more shit for it. So.
That's the thing, that I understand Plain Jane's argument of, oh, I just don't like her art, which, for example, if there's a musical artist you don't like, there's a difference between saying that you hate their music and just saying, look, not for me. Other people enjoy it. Great. Not for me. And it's not like she's really providing any sort of constructive feedback either, which I will say, Amanda's eye makeup in the very, very short period of time has already gotten substantially better. I'm
incredible,
very impressed with the way that Amanda has been able to take that feedback. So she's clearly open to it.
Yeah.
So if Plain were to actually provide something constructive, I'm sure that Amanda would be willing to work with that. Or maybe she could help her cut her pads to not be so lumpy, things like that.
Mashed potato pads. My gosh.
Yes. All right. Well, let's set all of this drama aside and talk about actually, we have a mini challenge to talk about too, which I was very surprised about. I sort of felt like it was like, okay, we're doing a plug for RuPaul's book. Get it?
Cool.
Yes, we're The House of Hidden Meanings, the new RuPaul memoir. Were there any standouts for you, Beth, from the mini challenge?
I thought, well, there were a couple. I was so living for Maya just coming out as Catwoman. It makes no sense for her brand, but it also kind of does. And I was so obsessed with get into quick drag. And she was just like, I got just the thing. I'm going to do a latex catsuit. I was so living for that. Exactly.
Smart.
I did think that Amanda's makeup in the quick drag looked pretty good.
Not bad.
And I was like, okay, maybe you're taking too much time, girl.
Yeah, that's the opposite of what we thought the issue was, that you needed more time to blend. No, apparently you need less. Otherwise, you just keep adding. Yeah, because they had to do the title for their autobiography, the cover shot, and then the biography for the author, which Rue read and was able to ad-lib a little bit, especially for Tsunamis. I think they all genuinely did really well. Some took it a little bit more literally than others. Some kind of created characters, which I thought was really fun. And ultimately the winner here was Saphira Crystal, which Rue definitely has taken a liking to her. I thought hers was funny, but sure, pick her for the winner. I don't think that there was someone else who I felt like really deserved it instead.
No, I feel like everybody did a good job. And I would say Saphira, I liked Plain Jane's. Who was the third one that I really liked? See, now I'm forgetting. That's the thing. Like, the mini challenge happens, and then I go, okay, bring on the real stuff sometimes. But I'm loving though that after all of that with Q being upset for not winning, after Saphira wins, the camera cuts right to her for her reaction. And I was like, they're hoping for a Lucy LaDuca moment where she's like, I could have had my first win here on Drag Race.
Yeah, I was gonna say the mini challenges to me don't really mean much in the competition. Lucy's over here like glaring at me from Hartford, but they do. It's just a way for queens, I think, to express their personality and also for us to get another winner so they can get the team captains for the main challenge. But I ultimately, was it Q who did the why? That was hers. Was why that I thought that was very funny.
Was funny.
It did feel a little bit kind of like playing on her not getting in the top and things like that.
Why?
Why? Okay, main challenge time. The queens are tasked to collaborate with Ru on 3 hot tracks from Black Buddha, which this is, I think, the first time I've like really listened to some of the Black Buddha tracks in full. The 3 are very solid. So I listened to the whole album. I was like, oh, this is really good. Why did I not have this in my rotation sooner?
I do love that this week they literally said, let's make sure that we sell RuPaul's book and music. This was the week of RuPaul market, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm buying.
I'm telling y'all, RuPaul puts out some good damn music. And yeah, it's the same kind of stuff sometimes, but you know what? It's all stuff that you can listen to in the gym or on the subway, or you're like trying to pump yourself up in the morning to get out of bed, and you're like, yeah, let me just like throw this on. I think it's just fun music. So that it's a really, really good album. So go download it on iTunes today, Apple Music. I said iTunes as if that's still a thing.
Do people? Yeah. Well, I mean, I know it's Apple Music, but it's still iTunes.
It's iTunes, right?
It's like the same thing with Twitter becoming X. It's still Twitter in my head. It's really tough for me to adjust to a brand change. I'm so stuck.
People will literally be like, I saw this on X, and I'm like, what's X? And then they're like, Twitter. And I'm like, oh
yeah, Twitter. No,
I just call it Twitter.
So these are our Black Buddha girl groups, and we have our 3 team captains: Saphira because she won the mini challenge, Geneva because she won the lip sync last week, and Plasma because Plasma won the main challenge last week. And so they get to do a draft where I believe it was Plain Jane and Megami that were the last 2 selected. So potentially chosen for different reasons.
Very different reasons. I think you have the person who, brings good queer art, but is she worth protecting? And then you have the person who wants to protect queer art, but is it worth protecting? So I think it's, if you had to go through, that's obviously not how I feel, by the way. But I do think that, I'm really, 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 really proud of Megami this episode. I think there's a huge, now that I've seen like a lot of her tweets and everything, in Nymphia and all these other girls on her team, like, saying, yeah, this is what happened. I mean, she really was the life force behind that team for so many things. I think Maya and her, if they had to like say who did the most, Maya did all the choreography. Megami did a lot of the writing of lyrics for pretty much everybody, especially Nymphia. So if the people who were like, Nymphia's verse ended up being so good, oh my god, she faked out, I was like, that was Megami. Megami wrote her verse. So I think that sometimes being picked last gives you the fire to prove yourself, especially in a competition where I feel like she has already felt like the underdog, the person that nobody's taking seriously. And I think that entire group, for the exception of Nymphia, was feeling like that. So I don't know, the ASMR girls killing it.
They killed it. I think so. Globally, I think that everybody did a really great job. I think all teams were very strong, and this was so tough for me to be like, who the heck is gonna win, and who the heck is gonna be in the bottom? That was very tough, and we'll go through everybody individually. But just to go back to Megami for a second, based on multiple things. But the first impression, I think, for Megami, for both the audience and potentially for the queens in the workroom, was also not that strong because of her talent show performance. Couple that with Dawn calling her the Eeyore of drag, and I cannot get that out of my head. Every single time I see her, I cannot get it out of my head. And it does make me perceive her as like,
Oh, no.
Like that's how it comes across. So then
Yes.
for her to crush and like slay so hard in the challenge as well as helping everybody else, that was that was unexpected for me. And I'm really happy that she was able to stay long enough to showcase something like that. Because
Mhm.
imagine if the first episode was a non-elimination. Oh, she's going home.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
and I believe it's not even a question.
Mhm.
This second opportunity, I think, is really important, and why I'm definitely okay with the non-elimination first episodes, because you get to see a little bit more of some of
Yeah.
the queens, especially those who may not have had the strongest first impression.
Exactly. And I think too that we see a surge in confidence in her from before the performance
Mhm.
to like if you watch Untucked, you could see her being like really excited with the other girls in the same way that we see Maya really come alive in Untucked.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Hey, we did this!" And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's the personality. And also like when she's performing, like you see it, but like that's the personality they want to see when you're doing an acting challenge or if you're having to do something that is not necessarily within your wheelhouse.
Mhm.
So I think now that she has something underneath her belt, I would not be surprised if Megami and Maya in particular have kind of a surge of energy for the next like week or so.
This is my own interpretation, but if I was in their situation and you're in this really tough competition, you're going to be nervous, especially if maybe your first couple interactions with the judges weren't necessarily so strong. And then to have a moment where you do feel that confidence, if you can take that and run with that, as you said, Beth, for the next week, or ideally even longer, of just
Mhm.
being able to finally open up and feel comfortable, because these queens were cast for their personalities as well as their talent.
Yep.
They're chosen because they can make good TV. And so you just gotta open up and be that authentic, vulnerable
Yeah.
self that Rue is always asking for, you know?
And if you
Let
can't
your
do that, open up and have your inner saboteur come
saboteur.
out so there's an arc, okay? So
Yes.
what we have right now is Megami getting over her saboteur,
Mhm.
um, which is really exciting to see.
Or take the plain Jane approach and just be a bitch,
Yeah.
which,
Drag
to be
race.
honest,
Just be a
might be
bitch.
more fun anyway. All
Oh.
right. Let's go through each of the groups. We'll start with Star Baby. This is the
Mhm.
first group to perform. So we're talking about Saphira, Morphine, Dawn, and Q. And this is one of the teams that was technically up for elimination because they did do it by team. So ASMR Lover, the whole team was safe. And then the I guess safes and bottoms all then came from these
Mhm.
other queens.
I got to tell you, I want to especially shout out Morphine, Plasma, and Maya. I think the choreography for these and a little bit of Nymphia as well for that last one. The choreography slapped for all three groups. Now,
Mhm.
there are certain queens that maybe weren't as strong at the choreography, and that's on their individual performances. But in terms of putting together something that was eye catching and looked like it had been rehearsed over and 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 over, like as if they were on tour, like
Mhm.
that's really impressive considering they only have like a day tops to do that. So I give them a lot of credit. I do think that Saphira had the best verse. I loved
Mhm.
her. Like she had the I bring the heat while keeping my cool. I look like this, you look a damn fool. I was like,
Mhm.
damn. Like she had so many cool like couplets and one-liners and that kind of thing that I just really, really enjoyed. And I liked her vocals. I do agree with T.S. Madison that she just kind of like every once in a while had the like deer look in her eyes. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting because Saphira even talks about in the workroom or in a talking head at some point that she's in a girl group. So this is something that is within her wheelhouse. And I do think that the look, the dancing choreo aspect and the lyrics were all very good, but it was a little bit of her face looking panicked, sort of. I don't know, which was very weird. I don't yeah, I was like, maybe it's the way she painted or just blink more. You should like blink your eyes because you look like you're trying to win a staring contest against RuPaul. That
You're
was
not going to win that.
oh yeah, no.
RuPaul had his eyebrows or his eyelids permanently open. No, just kidding.
Botox, baby. I think that she was probably the strongest out of the group for me.
Mm-hmm.
But Dawn
Dawn.
also did so well. And it was weird having the stark contrast of Saphira and Dawn, because I think Saphira's verse, the dancing was really good, but because of the sort of shocked expression, it was really in contrast to Dawn, which obviously she has her classic makeup look, which already makes her look very soft and
Mm-hmm.
very, fawn like. And then to have her just be this like really little cutesy performer. Her verse also, let me see if I can pick up some. Yes. Oh my God, babe, wake up, it's dawn, which
I
is
love
really cute.
that.
Like such a good way to start your verse. And I was really taken with her. So I think
Mm-hmm.
Saphira, I might put Dawn above Saphira if I had to rank them.
I think if we had to separate the charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent,
Mm-hmm.
I think Saphira had the nerve and talent. I think Dawn had the charisma and uniqueness there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like you're saying, it's like what one lacked, the other had kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. But they both did super, super well. I think that I had a harder time understanding like one or two lines of Dawn's that when I went back, I caught it immediately. But I think it's because the one thing about Dawn is because she has so much going on visually, I sometimes get distracted. And I don't know if that's like a potential ADHD thing where I'm like, I can only concentrate on one of these things at a time, which is why I have to watch these like 5 times over. But that's like, I so thought she did an incredible job. And it's not that I didn't think she would do so, but she was
Mm-hmm.
just like a pleasant surprise out of that. I kind of assumed that, especially the way that Morphine took control, I was like expecting Morphine to just blow everybody out of the water, or Saphira to blow everybody out of the water. And while I do think that Saphira did an incredible job, I don't think that she was like heads and shoulders above everybody else.
And I think it also goes into our perceptions of the queens when you're having Saphira say, yeah, I'm in a girl group. This is what I do. And then Dawn, which we know so far has really shined as a look queen.
Mm-hmm.
And she did a performance, although, it was like kind of quirky and weird. It's not like her doing choreo and dancing and things like
Yeah.
that. So it's a little bit of a different vibe, and you kind of don't necessarily have that expectation it's going to go so well.
Yeah.
But I think the writing of her verse and I think the performance was overall, she was just so present and there. And
I think that's for me, like my criticism for her last week was the fact that she didn't see, like, I just felt like she was reading news. Like she didn't have a presence really. And boy, what a contrast this week. So kudos to Dawn for sure. What did you think about Q and Morphine?
So Morphine, I think it's really tough to always be that first performer. And she was the first performer of the first performance.
Right.
So you're already sort of dealing with that. But I think she came out really strong. I think that her verse was okay. I liked the line. I have the lines pulled up here. Morphine like the drug, but no relation. And then the rest of it was a little bit generic-y. But other than that, I felt like she performed really well. Her outfit, my eyes were like immediately drawn to all the sparkles. I can't help it. And so she stood out with the green, I believe green color and all of that. I think she did well. I wouldn't say that she was the standout performance of the group, but I think she definitely held her own and deserved all the positive critiques that she got from the judges.
I completely agree. I think that she would have absolutely been safe across the board if they had done more of like a traditional top bottom kind of thing. I also think because she did a lot of the choreography too, like I want to give her some props there. But again, like I felt like she had the best attitude in her verses. Like out of everybody, she gave a lot of like, what I got from her was a good sense of like, take it or leave it, bitch. This is who I am. And I love that for a girl group kind of challenge. So I want to give her props there. But then we turned to Q, who I felt, first of all, I was like, what kind of Princess Diana wig are we wearing? Even though it had nothing to do with Princess Diana. It actually looked nothing like Princess Diana.
I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I have to go back and look because
it was a short blonde wig and it was just kind of over here. I don't know. Like it actually didn't look anything like Princess Diana, but it was just like, it so wasn't girl group wig. And then the whole outfit itself was giving Milk in I think it's All Stars 3. It was just kind of, I don't know, or one of those kind of, no, giving Milk when she did the long Pinocchio nose in season 6. It was like that outfit. It just didn't feel, I agreed with the judges. I didn't really like the outfit. And she kind of admitted, like, I rushed this, making this outfit. Again, I want to give her the
here's the Princess Diana wig. Just for reference if you're watching the video.
Okay, so more Cyndi Lauper.
Okay.
People are gonna be like, why the fuck is Beth even like talking about drag?
Yeah.
She doesn't know her references at all.
I remember when Princess Di shaved the side of her head, and it was very controversial.
Was it? I didn't realize it was shaved. Okay, well that
I don't know. I actually can't tell if it is or not, but that's just the vibe that it's giving with the like very and then folded everything over. Well, I mean, she talks about that she had to make this look, and my assumption is that because they were trying to match each other, and she just probably didn't have anything that was quasi similar to what the other queens were putting out. So she had to make something, I guess, because she said she made it.
She said she made it last minute. And that's the thing. Like, I definitely understand that. But also, girl, you're a robot up on that stage. Don't be wasting your time making an outfit. You should be working on your performance aspect of it and stand your ground and make the other queens try to match you when you are the one that, you know what I mean? Or like come up with a different idea. Because I know that they have a variety of different like outfits that aren't necessarily going to be for a runway, right? So.
But like, did she though? Like, from what we've seen from Q's aesthetic so far, is there these super well crafted, grandiose outfits that I'm just wondering if she just truly didn't have anything that she felt like would fit the bill, and it would be either too awkward or make her look even more awkward with her awkward dancing. You're putting two awkward things together. That could be part of the logic behind it, but I do understand what you're saying. It's like, why are you wasting your time on this? Like, focus on learning the moves. But also, yeah, she's such an awkward dancer. I think she did better than the first lip sync that we saw her in. But yeah, still feeling a little robot-y.
But that's the other thing too. If you know that you're stiff, you can absolutely create a girl group character. Just like think about was it All Star 7 when they did the girl groups? And yeah,
did you do that?
It was like, I mean, you kind of look like the Tin Man, right?
Yeah.
So like,
be the Tin Man.
Go be the Tin Man on the group. Like, you could like record your vocals, like do a Siri voice the entire time so that you sit back and you were like, yay, like do whatever you want. Like here, my name is Q and I'm here to slay. I am up on the stage while you all watch me all day. I don't know, like just just be stiff, lean into that, make it a part of your character. But the fact that you don't go full in on how it shows that you're either not as aware of how you're coming across and therefore can't like play with that, or that you're giving up too much with the other girls and allowing them to have more control of like the narrative of how you're going to do in this. Right. I don't know. Because I think she's such a strong competitor. I think that's why I expect more from her.
Yeah, I do too. And I don't think it's not that everybody has to be excellent in every single thing. It's when you recognize that this is something that you're going to struggle with, then be prepared to handle that in a way that helps to cover up some of those deficiencies. We see this with queens with Snatch Game all the time, is that they're like, look, I know that I'm not going to be the quickest, the fastest. So let me think of a character that I can really just lean into and that maybe even allows me to just be me and then kind of go for
Candy
it
Muse,
that way.
Shangela, Mistress. I mean, like you can name them off of these queens that have done so well that are basically just playing themselves with somebody else's name in front of them.
Yeah. Poor Q. Whoops.
She'll bounce back.
Her lyrics were also not that great.
They were not good. I think for me, she was the absolute bottom of the bottoms this week. And so I do think she deserved to lip sync. And I also kind of think that I'm not saying it's poetic, but I'm saying that like from like a producing standpoint, what a great arc for the episode to
Yeah.
be complaining about not winning and then
And I
having a lip
think
sync.
it was also that that didn't feel forced in
Right.
that, oh, shouldn't actually deserve to be in the bottom, but we're going to
Right.
throw her in the bottom just to see her kind of crack. This was something where, because everybody did so well, by default, she almost falls into that bottom position.
Right. For sure.
All right. Who was up next? Courage to Love.
Courage to
This
love. Yeah.
is Plasma, Amanda, Tsunami, and Plain Jane. We kick things off with Plasma, who did so well. I was really impressed, and I shouldn't have been so impressed because she did so well last week, but I think I'm still sort of undercutting her a little bit, which is not, that's
Mm.
a my issue. That's not her issue. Just because of how I thought she was going to be perceived, I was really impressed. Great vocals, of course. We know that she's a singer, but also just the way she commanded the stage was also really fun.
I think that RuPaul hits it on the head with her, which is that she came in as this like mid-century kind of aesthetic, and like the fact that and then like last week she's playing Barbara, and this week, you know, she's supposed to be like a 2000s 2010s, you know, now 2020s like girl group, and that's a very different kind of aesthetic, and I think that she did really really well with it. And obviously I was dying laughing at how fast she was talking, trying to put together the choreography. Everybody, she's like, all right, then we're gonna go over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm gonna go up in the air, and then we're gonna do. So I was like, slow down, girl. And I was dying laughing about that. So for sure, I do think that she killed everything. She did really good choreography. I think that all the queens, all four of the queens here were in tune with the choreography. I do think that it was funny to see Plain Jane at first look like she was not picking it up as quickly, and Tsunami was kind of not there. But then I think that given they did a lot of 1, 2, 3, 4 down the line. And I think they strategically placed it where it's like, okay, first is Plasma. So I'm going to show you what you have to do. And then next was Amanda, who was very confident. And so she could go. And being second and third, I think, is actually the hardest in that situation, because you can understand where 1 and 4 are, but sometimes 2 and 3 can be harder, right? And so having Amanda and then Tsunami, who was like, okay, now I'm getting it, and Plain Jane, who clearly was having a harder time, be last, I think that actually ended up being to the detriment of some of the other queens, because I think Plain Jane also kind of shone through, and she definitely looked like a girl band star. Like she looked like she could have been in like Danity Kane or you know, the Pussycat Dolls or something like that, and while at the same time having really funny lyrics as well. So I don't know. I felt like for me, Plain Jane and Plasma were the standouts for this group.
I think that's to just talk more broadly about each of the groups for a second with the choreography.
Mhm.
And Beth, you kind of alluded to this, but not only did they do good choreo, but they did it in a way, and especially with this group, all the points you mentioned, it was strategic with the other queens in mind, because it's
Mhm.
one thing to come up with, oh, this is a very cool choreo, but if the other queens can't do it, then like what's the point? So you really have to work with everybody in your group to put together a solid product where everybody feels comfortable, everybody feels like they can do it, and everybody can shine. And I think that that's really something that all the groups did well, because the only person who I saw looking awkward doing the choreography was Q. When you
Mhm.
have a moment where Q looks over and is like, what are we doing, guys? And other than that, it really, everybody just looked like, we know it, we're doing it, we're nailing it.
And they didn't look mechanical either. Like everybody, now some people just are naturally better dancers and have the energy and the pizzazz, but most everybody didn't look like, and then I go over here and I put this up in the air. Like it was pretty good. I really, really enjoyed all three.
That's what I look like when I dance. I'm like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2.
I had to do a Broadway. I didn't have to. I chose to do a Broadway like actor training thing when I was in college. Not because I wanted to be a Broadway actor, because I knew I wouldn't be good enough for that, but I wanted to be a casting director, so I wanted to see the other side of things. And they had casting or cast members from who were like dance captains from Broadway shows come in and teach us. And I have no dance experience. And I'm in a group of people who have been taking tap and lyric and ballet and everything for years. And they taught us a tap number from Gypsy. And I was sitting there like, ah. It was
That's just like stomping her feet. I don't know how to
and the
tap.
best part is I just was like, I was trying to act like it as if I didn't know what, like, as if like I was like, all right, we're just gonna go with it or whatever. And I'll never forget the casting director being like, I think, you know, he would go through every single person. He goes, what I liked about you is that you were in character, which is the most important part. I was like, is this a read or is this a compliment?
Yes, and the character you chose is really bad at dance.
And the character you chose was, you should not be a Broadway actor, honey. Yeah. No. The talent not there, honey, but the nerve there. A lot of it.
That's great.
So funny.
Okay, so I can't remember who you said you thought the standouts were.
I said Plain Jane and Plasma.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think Tsunami really stood out in the runway, which we'll talk a little bit about later. In the performance, I thought it was solid. I didn't notice her doing anything wrong or anything bad. I didn't think she was awkward, but she also didn't stand out in the way that Plasma and Plain did for me. So it's really not a knock against her at all. It's more, I want to compliment the others for standing out a little bit better.
She just didn't stand up, but she was solid. I totally agree.
Yes, exactly. And what was very interesting about Amanda's is, all right, so as someone who consumes a lot of reality TV, I often think about the story the editors are trying to tell us. And with Drag Race, it's very easily telegraphed. So it's something that just is so obvious and in your face that you can't help but notice. So the moment when Amanda's wig got stuck in her face and they right to Michelle Visage, I was like, oh, she's going to be the bottom. Because everybody else was also doing so well. So I was literally looking for any little thing that would indicate who's winning or who's losing. And unfortunately for Amanda, that was because I didn't see her lumpy pads when I watched it the first time.
I didn't either, yeah.
So that was the only thing that I saw that was a misstep for her, was her hair getting stuck in her face a few times.
I honestly think the reason why we didn't see the lumpy pads is because they spent every opportunity cutting to Michelle every single time that she was like the focal point. They were like, this is the issue with the wig, Michelle. Back to her. She's in the front, Michelle.
Yeah.
So I do think the pads, when I saw them like during the judging moment, I was like, oh, girl.
Yeah, that was when they showed the one shot when they started doing the judging. They were like, yeah, and your pads were lumpy. Oh, they were lumpy.
Listen, as a woman, like every other woman who has cellulite, yes, lumps are sometimes there. Mm-hmm. That's a medical condition. Okay, what she had going on there, that's not normal. That is a medical condition. You need to see a doctor, preferably a plastic surgeon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's a lipedema, girl. It's not normal cellulite. We need to get you on a diuretic. You're retaining water. Poor thing. Must be painful.
Man. But I do think like I think her energy was
good.
Incredible.
Yeah.
She clearly I love the confidence that she has. She doesn't take shit. She stands up for herself. She still is willing to learn and listen from the other queens who approach her like a normal human should. And she can have fun and be shady and all that kind of stuff. I also need to say, I am so obsessed with her looking directly into the camera to say everything she needs to say about Plain. It was iconic. Yeah. It was very Tatiana in All Stars 2 going, thank you, into the camera in the confessional. But this is like beyond. Like, we're just breaking the fourth wall here, and I'm here for it. Amanda, you give her a year or two on tour, she's going to kill it in All Stars. I'm telling you.
I really hope that they bring her back. And I understand that. So when they had to do the who do you think should go home moment, and I believe it was Plain that said that she's got a lot to grow and this is not the place to grow.
That was
Or maybe it was
Saphira who said that.
Okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, I remember someone said this. And like I understand that. I get that. And I think that her being on Drag Race is really just the start of things to come.
Mhm.
It really opens up so many new doors and avenues. And I could see her being someone who comes back, similar to Mirage, who comes back for an all-star season.
For sure. I think I was trying to go through all the winners in my head. Like, is there a winner who just kept getting better throughout the competition and then won when nobody thought about it? I can't think of a single one. I think the closest I can come to is Jada. And I don't even think that was that big of like a underdog story. It was more of a, oh my gosh, Gigi's falling at the last moment. You know what I mean? Like, I really think that she was so much better as a TV personality, as a creative, as a person, as like all of these wonderful things than I was giving her credit for in the preseason. I'm so thankful that she like proved me completely wrong and has been proving to all these haters out there. And I think that the following that she has now is further proof that it doesn't matter if you're on a growing journey or not. There's a place for you on Drag Race.
Yeah. Yeah, I went back just to refresh to look at like every winner, and really there's not one person that they were a growth arc. Maybe Evie a little bit, but even then she came out so strong out the gate that she, to me, doesn't really fall under that category. I mean,
Yeah.
Aquarius, for being 12 years old, still like crushed the competition because she was so seasoned when she came in already. I mean, she was the queen, but it was like from when she was, she wasn't actually 12, but when she was so young.
She was
coming
21, so you just flip the numbers around.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. But it was like I was following her before she was ever on the show, from when she was like a teenager, crushing it on Instagram. So again, these are all the winners seem to have queens who just came in knowing who they are and were able to show that. And so I understand the logic of this is your opportunity to learn something and now go continue to grow and come back.
And I'll say that when it comes to All-Stars winners, we've had a couple. Like, I would argue Sonique is one that I don't think a lot of people would have given, even though we all love her as a fan base. I don't think people were coming in and going, oh, it's Sonique, but she's up against Ginger Minge and Eureka and all these people who like already had a good sense of who they were and were like really solid competitors. I'm really thankful that we have an All-Stars where people can come on and like, you think about other queens who maybe were solid on their seasons but came and just showed us a little bit more. Scarlett is one of those. Raja, come on. I mean, like, there's a whole bunch of people where I really do feel like the All-Stars, the versus the world, the whatever, are that's the place for them. So.
And those spinoffs are just going to continue. So there'll be plenty more opportunities for some of our faves to come back. All right, let's move on to our last group, ASMR Lover. These are our ultimate winners, so none of them end up getting critiques from the judges. This is Geneva, Megami, Maya, and Nymphia. And I will say, I was real nervous for this group. I did not think that they would do well, let alone win. So I am more than happy to have been proven wrong, and I'm so happy with how everything turned out for them.
Yeah. I gotta say, I think there's one person that's real lucky that they won as a group and that they didn't judge individually. Can you guess who I think it is?
I'm gonna say Geneva.
Yeah. There were moments with the choreography that didn't look like she just kind of did one of these moments at one point where she kind of kicked back one leg and it didn't look right. I don't know. I love that her look combined the yellow of Nymphia with the black that the other two queens were wearing. They all had their own aesthetic, but they tried to have like this black and yellow kind of theme. But I think that I thought her verse was weak and weaker, I should say, in comparison, just because I think people just really nailed it. And I can't help but laugh when she went vroom vroom at that one part. That made me laugh. And I think that was supposed to. I don't think that it was supposed to be like, vroom, vroom, I'm so sexy. But like that to me was so funny. But I don't know. Maya coming out, my easy. It was so good.
Yeah, the whispering also, or the ASMRing, I don't know what to call it. Like that was I'm really happy with the way that they integrated that. I thought that was really good. And I mean, obviously she's a really such an athletic performer with
Oh
her
my God.
all of her her and her cousins out there flipping.
I'm telling you, I could watch her perform all day long. I thought she really killed it. I thought that she did a really good job of making choreography that was different, but accessible for everybody. I thought that she did a really, really great job. And I like that she took the runway theme and applied it to the challenge too. It had a pussycat wig for the challenge. It was yellow. It was cool. I liked it.
Yeah, I think that she was also someone who, even though they may have been whispering when they were planning their choreography, she was really listening in terms of what queens can do and what are we going to do to allow them to really highlight what it is that they want to do. So Geneva gets to do her splits, right? She has like the time and the space and the ability to do that, which is something we've seen her do with her 2 previous lip syncs. So I assume that that's something in her wheelhouse she wanted to include. So I think that that's also really good. It allowed her to do some flips, but it wasn't like, oh, everybody else is in the background and Maya's in the front just flipping. It's still cohesive within the group because you have the 3 kind of behind her. She stays visually in that same space, so it doesn't really completely isolate her from the rest of the group, which whether or not she was thinking of that, I don't know, but it's cohesive and it makes the group look like they're a group together and not individual performers, especially with her being like such a flip queen. She could have easily just been like, I'm the best. I'm going to flip all over the stage and no one else can keep up with me.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I would say for Geneva, it's like I'm looking at the lyrics and I remember liking her first line, which was clearing customs left and right. Geneva cars just arrived. And I think that that's like that's cute. And I think her lyrics overall were okay. I think she suffered a little bit from the Saphira, like nothing behind the eyes kind of thing, of like a little bit of panic. And I've seen this also in her lip syncs as well, that sometimes the facial emotions don't necessarily match what she's doing with her body and the lyrics. And that's something that I think it's not just here. I've seen it in other places as well, which makes me a little nervous for her. But I think she was obviously benefited from the rest of the group doing well, but I think she still held her own.
Yeah. I don't think that she was like complete shit or anything like that. I don't think anybody was. I do think that if I had to choose the weakest of every group, she was far and away the weakest from this group.
And I agree with you. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that because of the whole blank stare sort of thing. Yeah. Magami and Nymphia also, I think both did really well. I was so impressed with Magami. Just the walk that she did with the confidence. I was like, yes, be this. Like, I know you can do this. Be this person. Don't be Eeyore.
Imagine Eeyore getting on some good antidepressant medications and just turning his pussy out, baby. Like that is what we got out of Magami. I was so stoked. Like I think that she had the best lyrics of the entirety of all the queens. I loved her verse. I loved how she delivered the verse. I could understand every single word immediately, but it's not like she was over enunciating everything that she was doing. I do think accessibility to understanding what you're saying goes a long way. And then when you couple it with good choreography, a lot of confidence, and just this idea of like, oh, I'm here and I'm going to take up space. Loved. This was Magami's week for me. I think I know a lot of people really, really like Nymphia, which we'll get to in a second. But like, if I had to choose a single winner, I would have been like, girl, Magami deserves this.
She took her Lexapro and she was off the races. Yeah, there was a moment for me when she was spelling her name that I was like, Oh no, I don't know why. I hate it when queens except for peppermint, I guess. I think I like
Detox for me with the X.
detox, yes, but that's because it was sort of like worked in. But I think
It's also
similarly,
the first time.
Megami here, yeah, so it wasn't so run down. I think Megami, it worked. Like it didn't. I think maybe because she did it faster or something. She like spelled faster. We got through the spelling bee a little quicker, so that made it work for me in the verse.
Yeah.
I was overall just really impressed. Look, maybe it was a little bar to begin with, but still, regardless, she deserves all the flowers I think she got from hopefully the fans. I've seen some people not being willing to do that, but I'm happy that because I believe she clarified on Twitter that like, no, it was me. And Nymphia, who we're going to talk about right now, also had, I think, a good verse. Like the Gone with the Wind, I'm Fabulous was so cute to kick off with. And I think that, I think Megami really helped the whole team. And Nymphia also did it with both her lyrics and her presence on stage.
For sure. I think that Nymphia, if I remember correctly, Megami said that Nymphia had written down like the words wind, yellow, banana. And she was like, I got it.
Yeah.
And she's basically like, it was like the opposite of what's it called? A Mad Lib. It was like the opposite of that, where she, instead of having like the phrases with just a blank word here, she only had the words.
She started with the nouns and adjectives and had to fill in the sentences around it. That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah. But kudos to Megami.
Yeah. And I thought Nymphia, I mean, she's somebody who, Aman has said this previously. She's got winner written all over her, and I can't help but feel that.
That wasn't good. Yeah, you're like,
we'll
okay,
laugh anyway. I think that she knows her brand also. The inclusion of yellow and bananas and those kinds of things. It so far hasn't felt overwhelming. Like it's felt like she's done it enough to really solidify her brand, but without it being like, okay, girl, we get it, which I'm happy with. So I'm hoping that balance continues. And she's a performer too. Like I think there's a world where if Plain Jane doesn't rank her last in that first talent show, that Nymphia does end up in the top as well.
I think so too. I also think that I'm kind of interested to see if she gets critiques next week and she does anything yellow or whatever. Does Michelle go after her the way that she did for Dawn's elf ears, which made no sense to me this week, because I was like, it didn't affect. It's not like it's been like distracting. It's been cohesive in the same way that I feel like Nymphia has. Like it's not Mo Hart's Brown Cow Stunning or Monet's like Sponge Soak It Up, Soak What Up Girl, like outfits and looks and references throughout the entirety of All Stars 4. It's not that level of, okay, we get it. It's still exciting. It's still new. It's done differently every single time. Sometimes it's right on the nose. Sometimes it's not. That said, her mini challenge was essentially her entrance look with the opening. So that's where I'm like, if anybody was going to get the critique for it, I do think Nymphia is going to be next up. I didn't expect Dawn to get it with the elf ears, but I'm interested to see what happens with Michelle versus, if there might not even be a Michelle versus Nymphia.
Nymphia.
Versus bananas.
Yeah. I hate potassium. All right. What else do we have? So we've gone through everybody. Is there anything from the challenge, the main challenge, that you want to talk about?
No, I just think this was like one of the best girl group episodes we've ever had.
I agree. I completely agree with that. All right, then let's talk about the runway looks. So it's all about the pussycat wig, the kitty cat wig. And are there any, I don't have the looks pulled up in a PowerPoint. We are going to, in the future, try to go through the looks a little bit more, at least touch on them individually very quickly. I did not put together a PowerPoint this week,
Listen, it
so
takes time to do that, and so kudos to Liana for always going above and beyond to be prepared for this
hey,
podcast.
it used to be easier when fashion photo. Okay, so in the Drag Race lookbook on the wiki, like Fashion Photo Review would put out the photos, but Fashion Photo Review doesn't come out until like Monday. So we're recording before the official photos come out. So I have
Right.
to be all like, let me grab screenshots from the episode.
Oh my God.
Crop and them being all super awkward. If they could just officially release the press photos right after the episode, it'd be so much better. But whatever.
And while
Fine.
we're on this, okay, I will now be doing a mandatory meeting thing and looking directly into the camera to address MTV for discontinuing your app. You don't have an app anymore, and so you have to go to the website. Why don't you just put these episodes on Paramount Plus where people are already paying money
I
to
know.
watch your show? I don't get it. You need
I
to
know.
make this more accessible. It is ridiculous. Or Wow Presents, upload the shit for free. I'm sorry.
I just don't understand what your end game is here. And this is, we're talking people in the US. So people
Yeah, sorry.
internationally have more options to watch. So we're speaking specifically US oriented. It makes no sense to me that I like, do you want people to pay for it on YouTube? Like, is that what we want here? Do you make more money that way? Like, I don't know. Whatever.
It's just
Anyway.
ridiculous because you sit back and you're like, okay, so you want people to pay on YouTube, Prime, Apple, whatever,
Mhm.
but people are already paying your parent company, Paramount Plus, where as soon as the season's over, you're just going to upload everything to that anyway. Why
Yeah.
not reward the people who are already invested in Viacom? Like, I don't
I
get
don't know.
it.
I don't know. I don't get it either.
I don't get it.
Okay. Well, speaking of things that the judges didn't get, let's talk about
Thank you. I
Amanda's.
was like, this is the one I do want to
This
talk
is the
about.
one. This is the one we have to talk about. Not that some of the others were not equally discussion worthy. This is the one that I think is. I don't even know, Beth. What's the first thing you want to say about this?
I'm going to say I think this is so fun conceptually. I don't get the idea of pussycat with pussycat. So obviously we know that a pussycat wig, which some like I think the Midwest they talk like that Trixie was saying on a pit stop, they call it a bus driver wig.
Mhm.
All those different kinds of things. Like I understand I don't know why people don't like this as much. I think it's a cool concept. I think that it's executed in such a unique, weird way. I would have loved maybe for her neck to be a different color, like brown, to fit in with like the rest of the nest area so that it's even
Mhm.
clearer that hers is the egg that's opening. I just think this is drag. This is campy. Now, are there aspects of this that could be tightened up? For sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But I think this was a unique concept. I might be one of the few voices saying that, and I recognize it, but I don't know. I thought this was one of her
So I don't.
most
So
unique
I
looks.
don't. So first of all, I don't think you're alone. I think part of it is that her eye makeup has gotten so much better that like that's
Mhm.
also very helpful. When I first saw it, I was like, "That's so cool. That's so clever." And then the more I thought about it and looked at it, the more I was like, maybe not for this week. And also when she took the headpiece off and she was lip syncing with her little blue beard, I was like, this looks really awkward from far away. Like close
Mhm.
up looked really cool. And I totally get like I get the idea of making the top of the wig and the bottom look like the egg and you're kind of like coming out of the egg. I thought that that was really a really cool concept. And I think maybe it just would have fit better for a different runway prompt than this one because I
Mhm.
understand that while it can work, there's just a few too many jumps in logic for the judges.
I also think that if you had just had 2 eggs and not 2 heads wearing wigs with lashes on them, like,
Mm.
if you made it clear that you are the egg that's opening or did
Mhm.
something with, like I don't know, I feel like you could have done something with the open space here to make it look like a bird's mouth or something, and I don't know
Mhm.
it's a weird area of your face to do that with, but, I mean, I think we all kind of assume, like, when we see an egg or if we think about an egg opening, don't you think of, like, a baby mouth popping out? Like, "Ah!" Like, "I'm here, bitch. Feed me, mom."
I guess so. Uh, feed me, bitch. I'm here. That's what I say when I visit my mom.
Mother.
Mom, feed me. Yeah. Well, I was thinking also though of ways that that she could incorporate like a cat going after the birds
Oh yeah.
in the nest. So maybe you like have one on your back and it's like trying to attack, like climb up to like get the
Yeah.
eggs or something. I don't know. And that's what I think the judges were getting at was just a few details to make it a little bit more cohesive and tie it together. Because conceptually, I do think this is very cool. And I actually think that the tree barkness of it all is also very cool.
Yeah.
Her shoes, especially, I thought
Yeah.
were really cool.
I
So it's there. It's
Yeah.
getting there. It's just not there yet.
I also think we think about Robin's baby blue eggs, and she has that color on her earring. I wish that that had been the color blue, like the shade of blue she had gone for, which I'm sure was more about what color can I get in a wig, because we know that she's newer to drag. I'm not sitting here assuming that she has all this money. I know that she's got to be a good writer on OnlyFans. You know what I mean? Like, so I know she's probably making that money. But that said, I feel like we're probably in a situation here where, like, again, it's just those tiny little details that I think if they add up, if it's too many things that are making, like you're saying, like too many loops for the judges to think through. And I'll be honest, I do think that sometimes the judges are intentionally daft. And I think this
Yeah.
is one of
They're
those
like,
moments.
we got to justify sending her home. What can we, or we need somebody to put in the bottom. What do we do?
Just like, I don't get the concept. Watch your nature documentary. I don't know what else to tell you here, but that's the concept is not hard to figure out. I can understand why aspects of the outfit, distract you from the concept, but the
They're
concept's
eggs.
not hard.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right. A few others I just want to briefly mention. I think Saphira's turning the Dr. Evil, turning the wig into the cat was so funny. That was so good.
I was dying. I loved that so
Ugh,
much. And I loved that immediately it looks like a proper pussycat wig.
yes.
And then, oh man, it was just so good. I loved Nymphia's reveal over reveal after reveal of various different takes on the pussycat wig.
Oh,
Ah!
stunning. Absolutely stunning. I thought hers, I was obsessed with hers. I was also just obsessed. I don't know if I was obsessed with the look as much as I was with everything Tsunami was I was like, take me now. I was like, I'm a ginger mint here. My basement's flooded. Like I was turned on.
I love
Good.
seeing Michelle crack a little
Oh,
bit, and the fact that she was legitimately turned on, like, I mean,
ugh.
I could feel that energy through the screen, like, even the still right here.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It was so good. It was so good. And I'm really happy that she was able to get critiques this week because she
Mhm.
deserved to be praised for this because it was, I think, one of the standouts this week. And that's saying something when you have Nymphia doing a vulva reveal. Like, that's amazing.
I also have to say, Tsunami Muse, if you're watching this, I live in Brooklyn, and if you're ever down to experiment with a woman, hook me up.
Can I come?
Anyway, yeah, please,
I'm
it'll
on
be
the
fun.
first train down. Oh, love it. Love
I
it. Love
love
it.
this
Love it.
world where, a few weeks ago we had asked you guys, and I was really upset that none of the comments addressed if you want us to have an OnlyFans. But if we were to hook up with Tsunami News, comment below. Do you want to see that
Yeah,
on OnlyFans?
we'll put it on an OnlyFans, and then we'll have a mandatory write and reply.
Yeah!
No
Oh God, this is
ghostwriter.
gonna be great. The other one that I really did like, and I disagree with some people saying that it was a little too much to a certain extent. I think that there is something is plasmas. I love the Mercury slash Hermes
Mm,
illusion. I do think that having a lot of feathers on the arms kind of distracted a little bit from the head. So I think if she had just like made that a little different, like we're taking that away, or like had just limited how much there was, the
mhm,
focus again would go back up to the head.
mm,
And again, but I think this is so cool. I'm like somebody
mhm.
who just kind of like, I wouldn't say I'm like the largest, like I know everything about like Greek and Roman mythology, but I still like it a lot. And anytime I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I don't know. It's an easy way to get points for
Yeah.
me when you do something this
Same.
well.
I was obsessed with Greek mythology as a kid, and so
Mhm.
this is, like, feeding every fantasy of that. I think if she had done the arms more like the way that she had done the legs with kind of the gold straps, I think that also would have made it a little bit more cohesive, but I love
Absolutely.
the fact that she did it with headphones. That's so
So
cool.
cool.
And also, again, this is what you and I talked about, this is what the judges are saying, that this is it's nice to see this versatility from her. Like,
Mhm.
I would not have expected this, and I think she looks stunning.
I'm gonna say something that might be a little controversial here. I think a lot of people have been saying that, like, myself included. I said this in the in like the preseason cast assessment, that she gives a
Mhm,
lot of Jinx Monsoon,
mhm.
and this like mid century like housewife kind of feelings, and also a theater kid and like that kind of thing. I'm sorry, Jinx is either a housewife from like the 50s, 60s, or she's a witch. Those are
Yeah.
the two things that she is, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen more versatility this week from Plasma than we saw from Jinx throughout All Star 7 in season 5. And Jinx still crushed it. So I definitely think, like, while Drag Race is a snake eating its own tail sometimes, because it kind of has to be, it's self-referential. We make comparisons. I also think it's important for us to sit back and go, hey, I mean, the comparison is there, but also there's a lot of differences here.
Mhm.
And I want to give her flowers for really pushing the envelope of what her aesthetic could be.
No. And especially because I had pegged her as a Jan, but I don't think she's a Jan.
Q is.
Is our Jan? Poor Q. All right. Speaking of Q, we got to talk about this lip sync. So Q versus Amanda, those are the two that ultimately are in the bottom. And Iconopop, who is here as the guest judges, also one of their songs, Emergency, is going to be the lip sync song. So Beth, how do you think the two of them did? And do you think that Q deserved to stay?
I think Amanda wiped the floor of a Q. I'm not even going to lie. Not even a little. If it was truly down to the lip sync, I was more fascinated by what Amanda was doing. I felt like Amanda had way more energy. Um, it was fun. It was wacky in the moments it needed to be. She was clearly entertaining Iconopop as well, which I like. I know that it's RuPaul's Drag Race and you got to impress RuPaul, but at the
Mhm.
same time, like, I always think about when Katya did the slow split in front of Olivia Newton-John, and Olivia was like, wow. Like, when you have the person who wrote the song right there in front of you, or in this case, the people, and they're
Mhm.
impressed by you, like, I'm sorry, you should get some points for that. I I I definitely think that Amanda beat her.
So I would agree with you, and I even wrote this at the time. I said Amanda may have beat her, but was it enough to overcome Q's other work slash
Right.
previous week slash runway, right? And I think that that's really when you are the underdog going into a battle like that with someone who has had a track record of success, you're not just trying to beat them; you really have to mop the floor with them, like wipe the floor with them. And although Amanda may have done that in some people's opinion, I just don't think it was an overwhelmingly strong enough performance to
Mhm.
justify sending Q home.
Yeah.
That being said, maybe the show should, you know what I mean? Like, why should you take that into account? I'm saying I think they did, but
Yeah.
maybe not shouldn't necessarily have done that.
Well, I'm going to play the devil's advocate to a certain extent, because I think that, myself included here, fans have been complaining about for years that we don't have a standard rubric, but if we did, then the show would not be entertaining. Like,
Yeah.
if every single time we knew that it was whoever does better and the lip sync stays regardless of any other factors,
Mm-hmm.
let's call a spade a spade. Kennedy Davenport wins All Stars 3. Right?
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of different people who would have gone home, who we ultimately were fan favorites, who would have stayed in the competition, right?
Yeah.
We also know what goes the other way, that there are times where big competitors go home early, and that's entertaining. It causes ratings, it gets people talking about the show, and those kind of things, right? I always talk about the same queens over and over and over. I'm so sorry. But like, you have those moments in almost every single season where you're like, whoa, I didn't expect that queen to go home right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would argue that while it would be nice if we knew what the rules were, I also think the fact that we don't know what the rules are the things that make it less predictable for a show that's already kind of predictable.
Yeah. 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 I co-sign that. And I think also as someone who we talk about the show week in and week out, I kind of want to be surprised. I want to have
Yeah.
emotion and feeling and invested in the ultimate outcome, and to have it not be so clearly cut and dry makes for a little bit of controversy and some fun conversations with people that I enjoy talking to. So
Yeah.
all right. Is there anything from Untucked? I didn't really have much from Untucked this week.
No, there really wasn't anything. I think what was fun was seeing more of like this energy from queens who have been underestimated in the competition or put in an underdog spot, to have them win. I don't know. That was fun.
And they got to sit on the winner's couch. I love Nymphia being like, no, sit here so no one else can sit with us.
And I love Megami being like, yeah, but my skirt's so short. She's like, you're wearing panties. She's like, I am wearing panties.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
All right. Next week, the queens are tasked with creating their own doll. I'm so excited for this. I have no idea what's going to happen. This is like American Girl doll, but drag it up.
Love it.
I can't wait. A branding challenge, marketing challenge, all in one. I have no idea how this is going to go. I'm nervous for some of the queens, but you know what? That's what we're here for. And we're already 6 episodes into the season. I mean, we will be 6 episodes into the season. So we've been able to see a lot from the performers so far. Beth, is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I mean, you can follow me on all my social medias at AugustaWind11.
Perfect. And you can find me on Twitter at Liana RHAP, holding down the Drag Race for. We're going to be back next week to talk about creating your own doll. I'm very excited. Thank you to the whole RHAP team for all of their help behind the scenes. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.